Manufacturing company RoboSander Corp. introduces the patented in the USA multifunctional robot for the processing of hardwood flooring, carrying out sanding, dust collecting, varnishing, and polishing. Presentational multifunctional robot consists of a main block and actuating devices that are alternately connected to it. Sanding block, edger, device for collecting dust, varnishing, and polishing devices. Each of them is designated for carrying out a job, which corresponds to its name. Connection of any block and devices is very simple and takes only a few seconds, as you will further see. The robot is supplied through electrical grid by means of auto-rewind payoff reel with a cable mountable on the main block. For collecting dust, which arises during sanding, a filler neck with the filtering sac is also mounted on the main block. Irrespective of whether to sand newly installed hardwood flooring, or in this case to renovate an old flooring, it is necessary to connect a sanding block, sander, to the main block, further, robot. We have to fixate it by means of latches, to connect a loop of supply, control, and dust extraction hose, and turn on a switch. We put our robot parallel to the wall by which it will navigate during carrying out a job with the usage of laser ranger finders. Then we enter the following data: ride size after each trip, the distance when the robot has to perform a U-turn, frequency with which the robot must make stops for the service. It is necessary to replace an emery belt and emptying of dust of the filter sac that is required during the processing of a very big surface. Then we set the pace of movement. There are 6 speeds. We press the icon Start, which appeared on the display, and the robot started its job according to the entered program, navigating between frontal walls and performing floors sanding. In case of developing any irregularity during the job, for example, losing electricity, breakage of sanding belt, deviation from coordinate positions, and so on, or by pressing the icon Stop, the robot will stop, and we can see the reason for stopping and continue on the display. Upon its pressing, after solving the cause of stopping if it is necessary, the robot will continue its work according to the program navigating between front walls. while, the robot keeps on working. Upon reaching the intended U-turn, it started its performing. Leaving the frontal wall and making a turn, the robot sets the sander on the coordinate position which coincides with the last trip, plus size of step, and coming back to the frontal wall, keeps on working according to the program. The robot stopped by the opposite wall after the sanding is completely finished. If the emery belt replacement is required, we will do it as follows. We open up the sander's cover. We pull the tightener's lever towards us and put it down. Take out an old sanding belt and replace it with the new one. Return the tightener's lever to its old position and close the block's cover. The sanding belt's position sets automatically. It is also being realigned automatically during the job. After completing jobs with the sander, it is necessary to sand brims near walls around the periphery of space. An edger is used for this purpose. It provides an ideal coupling of the surface in process with the already sanded one. Under the robot's control, the edger will perform work automatically along the flat walls. For this, we attach it to the robot by means of latches, connect a supply loop and dust extraction hose. Setting our robot parallel to the wall, we enter a program, namely, number of passages and speed, and press Start. After completing the indicated number of trips, the robot will stop. If we see that another trip is required, we press Continue, and the robot will execute the command. Similarly, we will sand brims along the other walls. In order to process brims that look like broken line and to sand floors in very small spaces, for example, utility rooms, we use the same edger, but separately from the robot. In this case, its electricity supply and dust extraction are conducted from the separately positioned robot through a long hose with the loop, but its control is conducted manually. If the sanding belt replacement is required, we will do it as follows. We open up the cover, press the tightener's lever to the right, replace the belt, and after we return the tightener's lever to its old position, we close the cover. Correction of the belt's position sets automatically and is to be maintained during the job. For the performance of the following job, cleaning the floor from dust and small particles, we set up a device to extract dust, and we connect its hose to the vent. Then, we enter the program as in previous times and press Start. After the job is complete, the robot will stop at the opposite wall. For the varnishing, we remove a filler neck with the filtering sac from the robot, and instead we place a platform that holds a bucket with varnish. Then we attach a hose to the varnishing device. The hose is attached to the bucket from which varnish is naturally flown. After that, we enter our program and press Start. The robot, after covering the surface to the greatest possible extent, will stop near the opposite wall. After detaching the varnishing device, we remove the robot from the premises. The surface, which is still to be varnished, we do manually, using varnishing device that we move around by means of a shaft. After covering the floor with the first layer of varnish, and after it is completely dry, it has to be processed by the buffer in order to remove wood grains arising due to the varnish use. For this purpose, buffer is attached to the robot, and after entering the program, we press Start.
Блок в правильное положение и после этого продолжить полировку.
After the job is complete, the robot will stop at the opposite wall. After the buffering processing, the second final layer of varnish is applied, and after it is dry, the job is complete. Presently, a highly qualified worker does all the above described jobs manually by means of a sander, edger, buffer, and vacuum. Varnishing is performed by an applicator attached to a shaft that is intermittently immersed into the bucket with varnish, and by further smearing it on the surface of a hardwood flooring. At that, it ought to be noted that, on the one hand, this is a monotonous and tiresome work. And, on the other hand, whatever qualification there was a worker, he will not be able to come even close to the quality provided by the robot. If we are to compare the existing now manual method of the processing of a hardwood flooring and processing done by the robot, there are the following advantages. Incomparably higher quality, as at all stages of work, as in summary. Working productivity is several times higher, since workers' time is spent only to prepare for work, but the robot does it independently. Higher qualified and highly paid workers are not needed. Incomparably less dust level of a room. Dust is practically not there.